Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. It's your DFS strategy video for the 2021 3M Open. We're going to be talking about my rankings, marquee tee time pairings, and the anchor buckets. And if you have no idea what those buckets are, I highly suggest you watch the DFS preview video I put out last night. I covered it pretty in depth, but that wasn't the only thing I covered. I covered a lot of good information there. So if you haven't seen it, I'll link a video, top right hand corner. Go watch that video, come back here. You have a pretty good grasp of what I'll be covering in this video. But the whole purpose of this video is to narrow down our player pools, find a good core of golfers to start our lineups around, and go from there. And I will be creating a few lineups at the end of this video, so as always, I have timestamps in the description below. Those timestamps can also be found on YouTube's progress bar. Go ahead, hover over it, and you'll see them there. But let's go ahead and get into this thing. We're going to start with my rankings. I'll discuss how I got these rankings. Basically, I like to do this every single week. It hasn't changed yet. I haven't found a better formula to use, but I like to look at the official World Golf ranking for each of these golfers. Now, each of these scores I'm trying to get to as close to 100 as possible without going over, but we can see Dustin Johnson went over a little bit when it comes to grass percentage, but I'm really trying to get it as close to 100 as possible. So DJ is your number 2 golfer in the world now. So he is 99.3. But I'm not going to discuss this, in full. I'm just going to go over the stats. So official World Golf ranking, all the grass stats, tournament history, which we can call course history because we've played this tournament now. This will be the 3rd year. We've played it 2 years and it's been at the same golf course. So it's really course history. Then we're going to look at bogey avoidance, birdie or better percentage, recent form stats here in DraftKings average, recent form average, and scoring average, and then season long in DraftKings average and season or scoring average. That all creates a score, and based off that score is how I create the ranks. So my number 1 golfer, Dustin Johnson, comes to no surprise. He probably is the he's the elite golfer here. I was going to say Patrick Reed and Tony Finau are pretty close, and same with Louis, but really when DJ is on his game, I don't think anybody in this field is touching him. So we have DJ number 1, Patrick Reed number 2, Tony Finau number 3, and Louis number 4, which is great because these are all the 10K golfers. All 4 of these guys have that 10K and above price tag. What I typically like to do when I look at, say, the top 20, which Maverick McNeely is my 20th ranked golfer, is try to find some 7K golfers because that's probably where we're going to find a lot of our value. So our first one is Hank Lebioda, which is amazing because that is a golfer I actually want to play this week. So seeing him up there in the rankings is awesome. Our next one's Chris Kirk, another golfer that I will be playing quite a bit. Joel Damon at 75, another good golfer that I want to play. The biggest surprise to me is Ryan Moore. And I say that because Ryan Moore had a good finish at the John Deere Classic. Prior to that, he's not been playing that well at all. But I think now that he has enough events under his belt, I have no idea. He was gone in the beginning of the year, and I have no idea what the reason was. Like, we didn't see him at a lot of the events. He didn't have any stroke gain stats for a while, and that is an indication that he hasn't been playing for a while. But yeah. Seeing Ryan Moore up here at $7,800, that's kind of a surprise. Maybe not that much because the strength of field is pretty below, like 221. This is the 3rd lowest strength of field we've seen over the last 2 months. So yeah, that's probably a good reason why Ryan Moore's up here. But then the other 7K golfer I see is Brandt Snedeker. So other than that, I don't see any really huge surprises. A lot of our 8K golfers are surpassing the 9K golfers like Charles Schwartzel, even Stuart Sink. I like quite a bit this week. And Pat Kazire, I guess. And I shouldn't even say supplanting the 9K golfers because I don't even see a 9K. So never mind. We have everyone we want to see up there. So from there, what I like to do is go over tee time pairings. And primarily, I like to go over marquee tee time pairings. The marquee tee time pairings are the golfers that are highlighted in green, like the darker green. The other ones they're not the marquee tee time pairings, but they're worth discussing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these dark green ones to the end. And basically, what differentiates these from being marquee tee times to just, I don't even know what to call these, notable tee times, is all the golfers in that group, so there's obviously 3, their collected rank is under 100. So if you add this up, obviously DJ, Oosthuizen, and Bubba Watson all added up, 12 plus 4, 16 plus 1, 17. So 17 obviously way under 100. These other ones, it's somewhere between 100 and 200. So that's how I get the Marquee tee time pairings versus the notable ones. So let's just talk about the notable ones here. The very first group out is a notable one. Rafa Cabrera-Bello, Tom Hoge, and JJ Spaun. I like these golfers. As a 6K golfer, or them being 6K, I think can fit in your lineups and provide a little bit of value. They are the first group out, so they're not going to see any, well, for the first 9 holes, they won't see any track marks, nothing like that on the greens, spike marks really. Or, yeah, I mean, they're looking at a pristine golf course as they go out. I mean, same applies for even our group number 2, but they're not a notable group. I'm going to actually just move on because I have nothing else to say about these 3 golfers other than I like them. The next group to talk about is Robert McIntyre, Tom Lewis, and Scott Stallings. Admittedly, if we had strokes gain stats for Robert McIntyre, he'd probably be ranked a little bit better than 46th. I'm guessing he'd probably be in the 20s, maybe even less. And if that was the case, yeah, we're still not talking about these guys as a Marquee tee time pairing because Tom Lewis is 49th in my rankings and Scott Stallings is 75th. I don't have anything to provide other than, you know, I like McIntyre. I think he's a decent play. I do see he's ranked 46th, and he was a 9K golfer. I was telling you earlier, some of the 8Ks, supplanted or surpassed the 9K. McIntyre was part of that group. But other than that, I really have nothing else to say. The McIntyre and Lewis, very capable European golfers. And then Scott Stallings is a solid golfer, but I'm not really gonna invest a lot of money on Scott Stallings. The next notable tee time pairing is Cameron Tringale, Sepp Straka, and Bill Haas. I like Cameron Tringale. He's number 5 in my rankings, but collectively the group isn't that great together. It's not going to deter me from playing any one of those golfers. Yes, any one, because I do like Bill Haas a little bit too. At 6.3, you could find much, much worse. You probably find much worse in the upper 6K range and some lower 7K guys. I do like Bill Haas. It's a little bit of a hunch. His rankings aren't terrible in this field. Remember, it's a low strength of field event. I like him. I'm just not sure if I can really, get there that much with any of these 3 golfers, but I do like them. Let's just put it that way. The next one, Emiliano Grillo, Maverick McNeely, and Rob Oppenheim. We would be talking about this group if it wasn't for Rob Oppenheim being included with this group. I like McNeely a lot. I also like Grillo a lot. I don't care for Oppenheim whatsoever. I used to play him like 3 years ago when he was good. He's still good, obviously, but not as good as he was then. But it's not going to deter me from playing Grillo or McNeely. I think this is a really good group. Just those 2 golfers together. We'll see how it all ends up. It might boost Oppenheim up. It might bring the other 2 golfers down. We'll see. Going down to the next notable tee time pairing, Charles Hall III, Ryan Armour, and Jimmy Walker. This is a pretty decent group. I'm not very huge on Jimmy Walker. I've said it many, many times throughout all the tournaments that I've discussed Jimmy Walker in. Lyme's disease to me is just one of those things that I don't know if I can shake. Plus, he's a little old. 42 years old. That's not terrible. He's the same age as CH3. That's crazy. I would never have thought that. But yeah, I just don't trust Jimmy Walker. He's not a terrible 6K play, but with that, you have to embrace the volatility with 6K. I don't trust him. I do trust CH3 though. I do like him, but as a grouping, I don't know how much this helps them out, all being paired together. So by and large, I'll probably just avoid. I mean, you can kind of see my exposure levels here. Other than CH3, I don't care for the other 2. Then we have Adam Schenk, James Hahn, Mark Hubbard. I like that group quite a bit. Yeah, they're just barely over 100, like collectively, but it's still over 100 by a good margin. And they're in the low 7K range. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys. But that's all I have to say about that. The next group, we have Brandon Hagee, Eric Van Rooyen, David Hearn. I don't have much to say about these guys. Van Rooyen, he played college golf at the University of Minnesota. I don't know if he's played this course. You know, that narrative, I don't think sticks with me. I don't care for it, if I'm being honest. Brandon Hagee's been playing some pretty decent golf as of late. He is 35 in my rankings, so I do like Brandon Hagee, but the group as a whole, don't really care for. The next one that's notable, Kyle Stanley, Lucas Herbert, and Josh Teeter. Now, Teeter is going to bring this group down no matter what, with his rankings, that is. Like, this would never be a Marquee T10 pairing, but Lucas Herbert could actually be a better ranking. He's just a European golfer that doesn't have any PGA stats. And my rankings kind of rely heavily on those PGA stats. So that's why we're probably not seeing Lucas Herbert with a lower rating or ranking. But either way, we're not talking about these guys as a Marquee T10 pairing. And really, I don't know how well these guys are going to feed off each other. So I'm pretty cold with it. I like Kyle Stanley. I'll play some shares of Lucas Herbert. I don't really care for Josh Teeter, if I'm being honest. And then I think we have a couple more notable groups. Brent Snedeker, Ches Reavie, and Austin Cook. This easily could be a Marquee T10 pairing if we weren't talking about Austin Cook. He's been very volatile, and he's been playing pretty poorly. Since his second place finish at the Shriners, I don't think he really has. He might have one top 10 finish since then, but really his results have been really bad. So probably going to avoid Cook, but Reavie and Snedeker, I think they play well. I think they will play well together. And I think owning either one of them is going to be a nice filler in your lineups. I think this is our last Marquee T10 pairing. Matt Kuchar, Adam Long, and Ted Potter Jr. If it wasn't for Ted Potter Jr., this might be another Marquee T10 pairing. So TPJ, as he's known, he can go low. He can get hot pretty quickly, but I really don't care for it. Matt Kuchar and Adam Long, they're solid golfers. And if you want to add them to your lineups, they're good fillers as well. I have no issue with that whatsoever. And that's it for Marquee T10 pairings. Let's go ahead and get into our Marquee. Oh, no. That was it for notable T10 pairings. Let's get into our Marquee T10 pairings, which requires me to filter out all of the scrubs. And now I have 5 groups, I believe, 6 groups. 6 groups to talk about. These are the Marquee T10 pairings. And since I've been doing this, dating back to the PGA Championship, so basically the last 2 months, we've found 2 of our golfers inside the optimal lineup of that tournament right here in these Marquee T10 pairings. So that's what I'm anticipating. We're going to find at least 2 of our optimal lineup golfers here. Let's try to figure out who that might be. So the very first group of these Marquee T10 pairings is our number 8 game. Dustin Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen, and Bubba Watson. Now, a lot of people worried about DJ and Oosthuizen withdrawing from this tournament. I'm not that concerned about DJ. DJ's played after the Open Championship. Like, if you were with me in the preview video, we discussed this, but the RBC Canadian Open usually, or it had all the way up to 2018, it followed the Open Championship, and DJ went to the RBC Canadian Open quite a bit. I think he might have missed it 1 year, but he has good finishes, and it doesn't matter what his finish at the Open was. But I'll say this right now, anytime he's inside the top 10, including I think 2 of his wins, maybe 1 of his wins, he was either top 20 or he had missed the cut at the Open. He was top 20 at the Open Championship this year. So I think nothing but good things for DJ this week. It just depends on if he likes this golf course. You know, the Canadian Open was probably an easy track for him to play in quite a bit, but I think he does well here. Usti, on the other hand, I'm a little concerned because I believe he's in the Olympics. I think DJ's in the Olympics as well. And that's the one big question mark, is that's the only difference in my mind as to if these guys leave for the Olympics or not. If they withdraw and leave for the Olympics. But all signs to me point to a good DJ finish. Oosthuizen's been playing some good golf, but I don't trust him, following through and finishing this tournament. And then there's Bubba Watson, where I would always say this: there are very few golfers on tour that most golfers don't like to play with. Bubba's one of them. DJ doesn't talk much. I don't think he gets rattled by Bubba. I don't know about Louis. So if Bubba's not talking to any of these guys, he might feel a little bit lonely. So I don't know if that's going to play a huge factor into it. He'd been playing some pretty darn good golf leading into this tournament. I do like Bubba, but I'm also a little bit hesitant. So I'm not sure there. The next group, Tony Finau, Sergio Garcia, Ricky Fowler. I should just highlight these guys. So now we're on Finau, Garcia, Fowler. All three of them I like quite a bit. I really like Tony Finau this week. And I'm not going to take anything away from Sergio Garcia. I think he's a wonderful play as well. I don't remember if Garcia is part of the Olympic team for Spain, but if he is, there might be a little bit of concern there that he wants to leave for Japan as quick as possible. But I don't know. I'm not sure on that. Maybe that's not the case. But I think this is a golf course Sergio can play well at. Play very well at. And he's one of the golfers that has not played this golf course or in this tournament yet. That's what the last year bucket ones indicate. Same goes with Ricky Fowler. So I think they actually have a good shot at playing well here. Maybe a good time to get on to Ricky or Sergio. Our next group, Patton Kizzire, Pat Perez, and Gary Woodland. Now this is kind of an interesting group. I would say when I review these from afar, I would probably avoid this group because it just doesn't seem like it has enough firepower compared to the other groups. Well, and some of the next two groups we talk about, probably same boat. But either way, not sexy names. Patton Kizzire, very volatile, but has scored really well on DraftKings points. Pat Perez, $7,100. That's where he belongs. So he could be a good filler. And don't get me wrong, all three of these guys are part of the Marquee Tee Time pairing. So we could find one of these guys in our optimal lineup. And at their price tags, it would fit so nicely. So for me, that's the one thing I'm having a difficulty thinking about is, do I like them because of their price tags, or do I think they can get it done? I can say this with their bucket scores. Yeah, I think they can get it done. They are all in the most important buckets for this tournament. So yeah, this group, I think you can start some of your lineups here. The next one's interesting. Joel Damon, Steve Stricker, and Robert Streb. Not a sexy group whatsoever. I think I have no issue with any of these golfers being on your lineups. I like them. The only downfall I would say is they all hit, well, this wouldn't be a downfall because they're playing together. They all hit draws. This course is more fade dependent than draw dependent. I don't know if it hurts them, but I don't think it will. They all hit draws, meaning they're all going to see the same shots off the tee, most likely. And that's going to play into their favor. So with that being said, it gives me a little bit of a boost with them. So I do like them. I like Joel Damon a little bit more than the other two, but yeah, I like Streb, and I don't mind Stricker. The next one, Stuart Sink, Cameron Davis, and Dylan Fratelli. Again, this isn't really a sexy group, but all their rankings are pretty good. Stuart Sink's been playing some phenomenal golf as of late. Cam Davis is a recent winner. The one issue, or the one kind of worry that I have with Cameron Davis is he won the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and a lot of people knew or had a really good feeling he'd do well there because there wasn't any trouble around. When it comes to his driving accuracy, that might be concerning because there are, I think, like 13 holes where actual water's in play. I think the stat was 15 holes where water's in play, but there were a few holes or a couple holes where it really wasn't in play. But off of the tee, I think Cameron Davis could find some issues there. I mean, his driving accuracy it's better than Dylan Fratelli's, and it's barely worse than Stuart Sink's, but Stuart Sink has better good drive percentage, meaning he's making better decisions off the tee than, say, Cameron Davis or even a Dylan Fratelli. That's my only hesitation when it comes to Cameron Davis, but I think he is a very talented golfer. very capable of making birdies. Actually, let's look at their birdie or better percentage. That's probably a better thing to look at. So right here, column CN is the birdie or better. Cameron Davis, 24%. Of all the marquee tee time pairings, he is second. He's second ranked when it comes to birdie or better, right behind Patton Kizzire. So yeah, I think it's a very good play. Just embrace the volatility that comes with Cameron Davis and, well, DFS golf in general. Dylan Fratelli, don't really care, if I'm being honest. He missed the cut at John Deere Classic. Very bad strength of field, like a very low strength of field. Worse than this tournament, by the way. And then he finishes top 10 at the Open Championship. That came out of nowhere. I'm not going to depend on that. I think Dylan Fratelli is very shaky at best. I'm not going to invest a lot of money on him, and I don't think you should either. Our last group, very interesting group: Patrick Reed, Matthew Wolff, Michael Thompson. Now, Wolff and Thompson are past winners. Patrick Reed is not. So, I mean, there's only been two tournaments, or two 3M Opens that have been played prior to this one. So we're not going to have a third champ. But maybe this is a little foreshadowing to say, you know, Patrick Reed might be your winner. He rates out really well for me when it comes to buckets. We talked about this in the DFS preview video yesterday. So it could, I mean, I have a strong feeling it is foreshadowing. I think he can play well here. Initially I didn't think so because I thought his driving accuracy was poor. Let's just double check that one out. I mean, 64% nearly. That's better than a lot of the golfers here in the marquee tee time pairings. And good drive percentage is actually pretty high as well. So he's not playing dumb off the tee. Let's put it that way. I do like Patrick Reed, and his birdie or better percentage is up there as well. Matthew Wolff is kind of an enigma to me because, you know, he did come out saying that he is battling depression. He didn't go to the Open Championship, although he got an invite to go there, or he qualified, I should say, to go there. I don't know if that had something to do with being away from home. Whatever it is. Like, I'm not going to pick on him, but I am a little leery, especially at a $9,700 price tag, to play Matthew Wolff. I will play some, but I'm not that invested. And then the last guy in that group is Michael Thompson. He won last year. Obviously, he's played well at this tournament before. I don't know. That might be a flash in the pan to me. You know, Michael Thompson might not win ever again, or if his next win comes, it might be in 5-10 years from now. But as for the time being, I don't trust Michael Thompson to defend his title. It's a nice story from last year, but I don't really care. So that's going to be it for marquee tee time pairings. We'll kind of revisit this when we look at the anchor buckets, because we do want to grab two golfers from here and start our lineups with it. I'm leaning, I kind of tweeted this out, but I'm leaning like a DJ, maybe a Joel Damon, or a DJ Patton Kizzire, or even a DJ. I mean, I don't even care. It could be Robert Streb, even Gary Woodland. I actually forgot who I stated. I know I did say Sink, so maybe it was Sink. But I also like Tony Finau, so I could replace Dustin Johnson with Tony Finau, no problem, and feel pretty good about it. I think I said DJ and Sergio Garcia, and I do like that. So we will revisit this and try to make some lineups out of, you know, pairing some of these guys up together. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are our anchor buckets. So I'm going to go ahead to the bucket system summary. We discussed this when it came to the DFS preview video. So again, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you guys go and watching it. So what I typically like to do is look at top 5 frequencies over in these columns here and look at my minimum column. This means every year we've seen at least whatever the number is in this column happen at this tournament inside the top 5. That's probably a butcher way to say it, but either way, the frequencies of top 5 finishers from these buckets are high, 100%. I have to note, we only have 2 years of data. So for me, when it comes to a lot of just data in general, I would, well, with buckets, I should say, let's just go to buckets. 4 buckets, I would like to see at least 3 or more than 3 years to normalize the data. When we're looking at 2 years of data, there's not enough that I feel comfortable depending on. Usually we see somewhere between 2, maybe up to 5 anchor buckets that we would discuss. We have, I don't ever like to talk, I shouldn't say ever. I don't like to talk about salary buckets or strokes gained buckets as anchor buckets because, again, we usually only have 2 years of data or 3 years of data. We typically have somewhere between 5 to 7 years of data for the other stats here. But again, we only have 2 this year. So it's really difficult to go with our anchor buckets when it comes to top 5 frequencies. What I think I would be more inclined to doing is looking at strength of field for these buckets. So basically what I did is I captured the data, or I don't know the right terminology I want to use, but I pulled the strength of field for each of these buckets. So all the golfers in the last week 3 bucket equal up to be 98 points towards that strength of field. And one way I can do this is, let me open this up to everything. And we want to look at last week 3s. So if I clear this out and look at last week 3s, just to show you guys, if I sort this by strength of field, or what goes towards that strength of field, Dustin Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen, and Tony Finau, they make up 70 of the points that go towards the strength of field. So when I look at this bucket, 70 of 98 are in those 3 golfers. But that's what this calculation is. It's these 98 points, just filter out by last week 3s, add them all up together, and we have 98 points. Just to show you guys, only 14 golfers out of 20 represent points for this bucket. But either way, I do strength of field, and I think that's probably the best way to look at it, because it's probably going to be our best bet of these buckets actually sticking and working through. So I think what I want to do is I want to look strength of field. Let's go greater than 20. Greater than 18, because 18 has been a good number since I've started doing it. And it's not 18, it's 0.18 because it's a percentage. So 18%. I like this better because now it's limited down quite a bit. With this, I would almost want to look at my top 5 frequencies. We can kind of see here, there is one that has 0, but I still like it because the strength of the field is pretty high. And I think the golfers in this bucket are good. So we're going to go here. We're going to start here. And we're going to look at our last week buckets. Now, when we went over this in the preview, we looked at buckets 1 through 3, basically. Actually, we discussed all of the buckets that we see here. But let's take a look at who our last week 3s are. And we already have this filtered this way. Let's go by salary, actually. Dustin Johnson heads this one. Just from seeing that name and seeing he's part of the Marquee T10 pairings, I want to create lineups around Dustin Johnson. And when we get to the end of the video, that's what we're going to be doing anyways. I just like Dustin that much. Louis Oosthuizen, have nothing against him other than the worry he's going to withdraw. He plays really good golf, and as long as the Open Championship didn't give him too much of a hangover, if you recall, he was leading it for three rounds, and then kind of choked on a Sunday, very similar to what he did at the US Open. I don't know if that's going to play heavy on his heart or on his brain. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of words here. I'm going to be cautious with him. So I will kind of fade him or avoid him. But Tony Finau would be a good second for me. And if you remember when we discussed optimal lineups yesterday, as well as the salary buckets, we want a 10K golfer in our lineup, or a 10K plus in our lineup. And I think with the 10K golfers that we have in this tournament, it's a good way to start. So these 3 golfers, they make up most of the strength of field for this bucket, but rightfully so. I like them quite a bit. I do like Sergio. I like Grillo. I like List. I like Pereira. I believe there are more that I like. I don't mind Shank, but I'm probably going to just stay away. Yeah, no one really in the 6K range. I don't mind Satoshi Kodaira. That'd be a decent play. So yeah, I think we're really just looking at Dustin, Tony. Let's see here. I'm projecting around two golfers that we can select from. So from these three, you know, it could be DJ and Finau, and that's it. We can't build more golfers into our lineups than those two because 10K would be pretty difficult. You know, two 10K golfers would be difficult. But if you are feeling risky and you don't think, you know, either three of these golfers will, well, not either three, but two of these three golfers will finish inside the top 10, pick one of these guys and then grab somebody else that's, you know, a little bit cheaper. So I think that's where we can start thinking about building our lineups around. I like DJ. I like Finau. They're definitely going to be considerations for me, and I'm going to pair them up with some of these guys down here. I think it's a good strategy to go with. So the next one we'll be looking at, last week ones. These are the guys who missed the cut last week, and I forgot. Our last week threes are those at top 20 at the week before, which includes the Open Championship as well as the Barbasol. And again, when I discussed the RBC Canadian Open in the preview, that also included the Barbasol. So we did see some top 20s from there finish well at the Canadian Open, as well as the Open golfers. So don't be worried about Barbasol versus the Open Championship. Top 20s and missed cuts usually are what we want to look for. So again, this week, let's look at our last week ones. And we can filter, or not filter, but let's sort by official World Golf Ranking. Now we have our other 10K golfer, Patrick Reed. He's also in the Marquee grouping. So Patrick Reed, Finau, I mean, all of our 10K golfers, if two of those guys finish inside the top 10, chances are we can't roster both of them. So, you know, Reed could represent this bucket inside the top 10, and he wouldn't be rosterable. Or the same thing applies with Dustin Johnson. He might not be rosterable, but he does, you know, both of these guys would continue on that top 10 trend for each of their buckets. Now, this one I'm projecting 1.86 golfers finishing inside the top 10. I think that's pretty decent. We might be able to grab a second one, but by and large, we want to select one guy from here. So if I'm creating my DJ lineups, I'm probably including Sync, or I should say DJ, Finau or DJ. I'm probably including Sync, or I'll drop down to Chris Kirk. Like, I have no problem, you know, owning them or owning either one of those guys with a Finau or a DJ. And then, I mean, the rest of the guys here aren't terrible either. So I'll deploy that strategy. Also, we'll actually take a look and see if we can do that. Maybe we'll have to go from like DJ to a Stewart Sink, and then whatever a low priced last week 3 is, we might have to go that route. But we'll get there. We'll take a look at the end of this video. And then the last bucket for last week's, the last week's stat would be those that did not play last week. We have 72 golfers in that bucket this week. So by volume alone, we'll probably see 1. And I'm projecting around 2. So let's take a look at last week 2s. And this one is headed by Matthew Wolff and then Cameron Davis and Bubba Watson. Those are our 3 9K golfers. And if we sort by official World Golf Ranking, or the rating that they provide, Wolff is almost by twice the score of Watson. I shouldn't say it that way. He's representing this bucket, you know, strength of field wise, a little bit more than any other golfer that's in it. So you can take that a couple ways. You know, Matthew Wolff might be your number 1 play from this bucket, or maybe that's just an inflated number, you know, based off of what he's done in the past. Because of the official World Golf Ranking, I can't remember how far it goes back, but it goes pretty far back. So all of his success that he's had in his other tournaments, that's what's applying to this. So again, this could be an inflated number, and maybe we don't go with it. But yeah, if you're not on Wolff, maybe Watson gets it done, maybe Cameron Davis wins. But again, we also have to consider all the top 10s from the other golfers. So although I'm telling you, hey, these are 3 good golfers, very capable of finishing inside the top 10, you still have to make a decision. Because if you like your last week 3s, you had DJ and Finau there. If you select one of them, it's hard to select one of these guys, especially if in your last week twos, you liked either, or last week ones, you either like Stuart Sink or even Patrick Reed. You have some decisions to make. I don't think it's going to be super simple, but you know, obviously if you do have some conviction plays, stick to them. And if you see them here, all the better to you guys. But yeah, our 9K golfers I like quite a bit. KH Lee, look at that. He's providing 3 points of strength of field to this bucket. He's in the 6,000 range, the 6K range. He might be the 6K golfer you want in your lineups. We do see Patton Kizzire and Maverick McNeely. I like these two golfers a lot. And I also like Hank Lebioda, Johnny Vegas, Kyle Stanley. Like, there are some good golfers in this bucket. It's very easy for me to kind of go past the 9K range and don't even look at it, go right down to the 8 and the 7Ks. I even like Cameron Champ. So most of these golfers here, I like probably a little bit more than I do these guys, just when I take salary into consideration as well. So I definitely think we can go that route. When we take a look, okay, so that concludes the last week. If we take a look at the recent form buckets, I'm just going to go from top bottom. We'll look at our recent form 4s, and we only have 4 golfers in that bucket. And I'm really projecting like 0.6. So when I use this for like ownership, I usually multiply this by 10, or I should say by 100 to get my percentage. I mean, it's kind of telling me, you know, like 64% of my lineups should have a golfer in this, or 0.6 out of 100 lineups, I should have 60 golfers. That's kind of what it's saying. So when we take a look at this, when we look at our recent form 4s, there we go. We have DJ, Oosthuizen, Garcia, and Lebioda. I think it's possible to have multiple golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10. Although I'm projecting kind of a low number, when I include everything into consideration, the max ownership for this bucket I have at 154 points. Meaning when I look at the 4 golfers, I divide this number by those 4 golfers, and that gives me my max ownership for each golfer, basically. Or I can apply how many points I want. It's a little broken at the moment, so I would not take the 154 to heart. It works for some of these other buckets, but for this one, it really doesn't. Like, I have to tweak it a little bit. But even with that being said, if there was 60 points to give out as opposed to 150, that's divided by 4 people. That's at least 15% per golfer. But obviously, if you have some conviction plays you like a little bit more than others, you know, you apply them to however you feel. And I have this right at 60% exposure. So if you like DJ, maybe you bump this up to 30 and you knock down Oosthuizen by 5 points. Maybe you knock down Sergio by 5 points. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But I wouldn't so much say it's impossible for 2 of these golfers or even 3 of these golfers to finish inside the top 10. I'm just kind of forecasting 1. Just at the most, probably 1. Maybe 1.5, but yeah, it just gives me more reason to want to play Dustin Johnson. Now, if you are concerned that either DJ or Oosthuizen will withdraw from this tournament, there you go. You got Sergio and Lebioda. I don't know how well that really plays into account, because when we look at strength of field, you know, these 2 guys here make up almost 90% of the strength of field for this bucket. So yeah, play it with caution. Our recent form 2s, when we sort by the official World Golf rating, Tony Finau's at the top. Then it's Matthew Wolff, Stuart Sink, Lucas Herbert, Lonto Griffin, Bubba Watson, Cameron Davis, Chris Kirk. All of these golfers I can make a case for. You know, it's good to see Finau is in a different bucket than DJ now. So it's very possible Finau might be a better play than DJ, especially if you're concerned that, you know, DJ could withdraw. But I wouldn't make that if and then statement. I wouldn't say if DJ withdraws, that gives Finau a better, opportunity to win this tournament. That I don't think those things correlate. For me, I just see a lot of good golfers in this bucket, and it's going to be hard to choose from. Currently, I have 4 golfers that I project to be inside the top 10. This is where I like how my max ownership formula kind of works out, because I do want to limit that. But I kind of do see 4 golfers being inside the top 10. So with that being said, that could be a Finau. That could also be a Wolf, could be a Bubba, and a Ricky. Those are expensive golfers here. Chances are you probably can't roster more than 2 of these guys. But if you are in the belief that maybe a Finau and one of these guys down here will finish inside the top 10, then that's who you should, build your lineups around. Then the last bucket I'm going to discuss when it comes to anchor buckets is our recent form ones, which is the 60 to 80 range. Let's see here. We are projecting 4 as well. There are 62 golfers in this bucket and only 40 points towards strength of field, which makes 18% of that strength of field. So again, 4, but my max ownership is 148. Meaning I don't find this one that confident. And when I sort by salary, Emiliano Grillo's at the top, $9,300. Then it drops to Keegan Bradley, Dylan Fratelli, and Gary Woodland. Those are the only guys 8K and above. So not, when it comes to salary, not very strong. And also when it comes to official world golf ranking, 7 points from Brendan Todd. That's 7,300, by the way. That's your top guy. And then it drops to Emiliano Grillo, which both of these 2 golfers I like quite a bit. You can kind of see my exposure levels to them are pretty high. But I like Cameron Champ, and I also like CH3 this week, and Keegan Bradley. These are my exposure levels that I want to play these guys at. I could see these guys doing really well. And that's not to discount, KH Lee. We already talked about him. This could be a good spot for him. So yeah, from this bucket, I did say 4, projecting around 4. I don't see that. Maybe I see like 2, more likely 1 finishes inside the top 10. Again, there are a lot of golfers from this bucket, but I'm not really anticipating anybody here in the 6K range, the low 6K, 6.4 and lower, to really do much damage. Maybe some of these guys here in the upper 6s. I'm not a fan of a lot of these guys, so probably going to put Eckroat at 1%. But yeah, I like Cameron Champ. It just gives me more reason to play Cameron Champ. Maybe Emiliano Grillo at 9,300, maybe. But I think it's Champ and maybe CH3 is my favorite plays. But it's definitely Champ for sure. And then maybe Keegan. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So that's going to conclude the anchor buckets. I know I have a few of these buckets down here, but I'm not confident talking about them, so I'm just not going to. But you can see we want a 10K golfer, we want a 7K golfer, someone in the strokes gained 1 bucket, someone in the 3, and someone in the 4. I think that's pretty easy to go with. My projections aren't very high for either of these, but again, I need to tweak this a little bit. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and build some lineups. So for me, let's go ahead, open it back up. Look at our Marquee T10 pairings. We need to select 2 golfers from here to be in the optimal lineup. And I should say this. One of the other things that goes with these Marquee T10 pairings is, sure, 2 of them finish inside the optimal lineup. That means they fall under the salary constructs that we need. Most of the time from these, I should say this. The mark of these groups. So if I highlight these every 3, just to go over each of these groups once again. When I've been analyzing this data, when I've been looking at it over the last, 2 months, all but 2 groups produce a top 10 or a top 20 finisher. Now, of those groups, then only 2 of them produce an optimal lineup golfer. But that's not to say we can't you know, have other golfers not inside the optimal lineup. I shouldn't even say that. I'm all about the optimal lineup. So a consolation prize could still be another top 10 or top 20, just not in the optimal lineup. That's what I'm trying to get at. And really, we want to avoid the two groups that won't produce a top 10 or a top 20 finisher. But for me, I think what I'm going to do, let me open this up to this because this is what my spreadsheet, my lineup building spreadsheet does. It looks at stuff like this. I'm going to start my lineups with DJ. So I already have this kind of set up. I already have two lineups built up here. Don't focus on those, but we'll start here. Dustin Johnson. And I think what I'm going to do is just build 3 lineups with DJ, kind of show you the guys that I will be building around. Now, I don't like to include golfers from the same group. So I'm not going to pair DJ with Louis or with Bubba. I'm either going to go with like someone like Sergio. Actually, let's do this. Sergio, Sink, and what do you think? Joel Damon or Robert Streb? Or Patton Kizzire? I'm just going to go with a gut call and say Joel Damon. So I'll put those guys right here. This is how I'm going to start these lineups with. We can see how much salary is left over, and we can you know, look at who these golfers are and then add the buckets a little bit later. So actually, let me create 9 lineups. I like that. So it's a very good number. It's a very lucky number in Nordic culture. So let's go with that. We are in Minnesota. Let's start with Tony Finau in the other 3 groups. So we'll go with Finau. And with Finau, I'm not going to include Sergio because he's included. I don't really care to do Bubba. So what I want to do is someone like Kizzire. I'll do Kizzire. I'm going to do Sink as well. And then I'm going to do Damon. I mean, it's pretty boring, but I like these guys. So it might just be a lot of the same that you see. And then the next one, I'm gonna start with Patrick Reed. I do like Patrick Reed. These are all my 10K golfers here. I'm starting with my 10K golfers. I think that's smart. And with Patrick Reed, we have another 10K golfer, so probably make some room for some salaries. So I'm gonna go Streb this time. We'll go Streb. I like Sergio, and we'll do Kizzire. So I guess that's kind of where I'm stuck with, is a combination of these golfers. So that's how I'm going to start my lineups. Now I only have to fill out the other 4. Let's go ahead and look at our anchor buckets and determine who we want to select from that. So we'll open this back up to everybody. And first of all, let's look at our last week 3s and make sure we have that covered. Now, again, I'm projecting 2, I believe. Yeah, 2.3. So I'm projecting 2 golfers from this bucket finishing inside the top 10. Let's take a look at who that could be. Now, again, we have DJ and we have Finau in this group. So, and Oosthuizen. That might be difficult. But we have Sergio. So one of our groups already covered. If I'm thinking that Finau could finish inside the top 10, I want to give it a percentage. You know, like say there's a 30% chance both of those guys finish inside the top 10. With that being said, that allows me, if we think about that, if this is 100%, we take away 30, we still have 60. And that means 2 of my 3 groups, I can have a last week 3. So let's see, do we see any Stuart Sink or do we see any Joel Damon? We do not. So I can grab one more golfer that I do like from this list and add it to my lineups. So who to me is the best value or that I just have a good feeling about? Luke List is probably at the top of everybody's list, pun intended, I guess. At $8,100, I could add him to my $7,800 lineup. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll add him right here. Now it doesn't take away too much, and I don't mind that. With Stuart Sink, we're not going to go with their last week 3s. Actually, you know what? I want to talk about every one of these groups. So let's just add another last week 3. We already know Tony Finau is a last week 3, so we're going to apply that same logic to here. But again, you know, Patton Kizzire, Joel Damon, Stuart Sink, I don't think any of them are up here. So I can grab, again, 2 golfers. And what we see is 7,600, 79, and 76. So I really don't want to go too much over say $8,000. So I really don't want to grab anyone in the 9K range. I'm going to just stick with these 7K golfers. And I really don't care for some of these guys. I mean, I don't mind taking a shot on Mito Pereira. What I'm going to do is I'll probably add him to this group here. Never mind. Let's add him to this one here. Give us a little bit more money that we can work with. Let's go ahead with Brant Snedeker. I'm going to add him here because we already have these colors are representative of the strokes gained buckets. Yellows are my strokes gained 3s. Orange is my strokes gained 4. Since we already have strokes gained 4 with the other two guys, I'm just going to do this right here. So that's how I'm going to start right there. And then with the golfers down here, I know Sergio is 1. Patrick Reed is not. And I don't think Robert Streb is. No, I don't see Robert Streb. So again, we can add 1. We can add 2. It doesn't matter. 8,200 gives us a lot of flexibility. We could grab a 9K golfer. So let's see what happens if we put Sergio here. Drops us down to 7,700. That's not terrible. So I do like that. Maybe we should go with like Emiliano Grillo. Can I add him here? Yeah, that's too much. I don't want it to drop down that much. I'll put Grillo here. And then could do an Adam Schenk. How about a Satoshi Kodaira? Let's do that. And I want to add him to this one because we already have Sergio. So now I have 2 golfers here, just 1 golfer here. I don't need to add any more, but I could. In fact, sure, let's do it. I will add 7,900. Could add List. Could add Snedeker. Let's go ahead and add Luke List. Why not? Sure. That helps out. Now we kind of have a lot of our lineups built. But so I'd go from there, look at, I mean, I could select any of these. Let's just switch it up and let's look at recent form 4s. That would be easy just to get out of the way. So let's include everybody, look at recent form 4s. So DJ, Louis, Sergio, and Hank Lebioda. I only want to select one of these guys. So basically what I'm going to do is probably just add Hank Lebioda to whatever group doesn't have any of those golfers. So that would be right here. So Louis, Sergio, DJ. So this one already gone. Any of these guys up here I'm not going to select. I already added Hank Lebioda to a Kazire lineup. I don't feel like doing that again. I could add him right here though. Sure. So we can add Hank Lebioda there. I could add him to another Kazire. I don't want to. Could add him to a sync lineup here. Sure. I don't mind it. And that gives us enough coverage. I think that's pretty decent. Again, we already have DJ. Sergio's already occupying a lot of these. I don't have any Sergio with Fee now though, which is interesting. I don't think it's necessary, but anyways. So we already went through recent form 4s. Why don't we go ahead and look at the next one? Let's go ahead and look at recent form 1s. We have up to 4 of these guys. So recent form 1s. We have Grillo, Bradley. This might be difficult. I like Champ. I'm just going to sprinkle Champ in with a lot of these groups. So I'm probably going to avoid something that has double yellows. So I'll add them here. Gives it a little bit of flexibility with pricing. I can go here as well. I add them a couple times. Add them here. And yeah, that's probably enough. Like I like Champ quite a bit. I think it's going to help out a little bit with our lineups. Let's see. Is there anything else that I want to do with the golfers down here? I mean, I like CH3, so I'm going to add CH3 wherever I can as well. $7,700. Could add them here with no issue. Probably just add them once to all my lineups. We don't have a green here, so let's do that. And then let's see, Keegan Bradley, I like 8,800. Do we have any flexibility with 8,800? Do that here. Could do it here. Ooh, that's difficult. Here? I don't feel like having two 6K golfers in this lineup. We do something like that. That works. Again, I'm trying to add as many guys that I possibly can from this group. Do like Rafa. He's a 6K golfer that I can add to any of these lineups. How about here? That's probably the best place to put him. I don't want to spend too much time going over these, so I'm just going to just sprinkle these guys in wherever I can. Ooh, KH totally forgot here. $7,600. 6K there. Sure, put them right there. That gives us a little flexibility with that. Again, we can have up to 4 of these guys, so maybe we find a little overlap that's happening, and that would be fine. I mean, obviously, whatever you're comfortable playing with. I don't really like this group. I mean, Grillo's nice. Bradley's pretty decent as well. Charles Hall III, I don't mind. I don't think we're going to have 4, but it's possible. Brennan Todd. Forgot about Brennan Todd. We want to add Brennan Todd. $7,300. We can add him right here. We can finish out our lineup here. We have no strokes gained 1 or 2 golfers in this group. That is probably not the right way to go. Let's put it that way. I can also do it here as well. So we have 2 lineups completed. Let's move on from that bucket. I don't really care all that much. We already went through 1s. We went through 4s. We did 3s. Let's go with last week 1s. Again, I'm just going all over the place because I don't want to, be stuck with 1 bucket. So last week 1s, we see Bradley, we see Reed, that's good, and Sink as well. I do like Chris Kirk. I want to see if I can add him anywhere. $7,900, boom, we got it. Now we have a green golfer in here, that's good. 79, we can do that here as well with another Finau lineup, and I don't mind doing it right here. That looks good. Let's see, what else can we do? Brendan Todd. Eric Van Rooyen, I don't care for. I do like Keith Mitchell. I do want to add him whenever I can. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't want to add him with like a Rafa Cabrera Bayo. We can do that here though. We can go. So I don't think we have a 6K golfer there. We have 1 there. But we don't here. Nah. I think that's probably enough. Keith Mitchell. Should we add some Kuchar? He was in one of the notable tee times, and he's what, $7,300. So we could add him up here. That's too much. Too much orange. Okay, it's probably going to be it for that bucket. Let's look at last week 2s. There we go. We have some interesting golfers here. I want to put Maverick McNeely wherever I can. So I can put him there. I can end the lineup here. Perfect. 78. I could do it there, but I think that's probably it. I don't need to do any more than that. We have our CH3. We have our Patton Kazire. I can't fit Cameron Davis anywhere. We're looking at what? 75, 8, 82, 78. Okay, so we could go with Vegas somewhere. We go right there. That fills out that lineup. I like Kyle Stanley. I could put him right here, and then we have some money to play around with. See, how much did we have? 83. Probably grab 1 more guy from here. Do we like Doug Gim that much? Yeah, possibly. I think do something like this. Put Gim there. That's fine. 82 and 83. So when it comes to my last couple lineups, I would rather just look at salary and see what fits and what doesn't. So we're looking at what? 82 and 8,300. We can scroll down here and see what some of our golfers are, just to see if we can fit any of them in. Charles Schwartzel, 10th ranked golfer in the buckets. I don't know. This probably makes more sense. Put him there. And then 8,300, we could put a Fratelli. I don't really care if I'm being honest. Sure, we can put a Gary Woodland. Actually, Woodland is in our anchor buckets. You know what? Doesn't matter. We can still put that there, and maybe we have 3. So anyways, that's kind of the strategy that I'm going to deploy. Looking at all of my anchor buckets, looking at our Marquee tee time pairings. I'm not going to lie. These 3 golfers are probably going to make up 90% of my lineups. They're going to be in 90% of my lineups, that is. So I'm probably going to go 30, 30, 30. And then I'm going to pair up all the Marquee tee time pairings I possibly can. Whatever makes sense. I'll play more of my favorite golfers from those buckets. And then I'm going to just fill in kind of what you saw on the screen, looking at a lot of those golfers. But if I'm being honest, I'm probably just going to get rid of this condition and try to find a lot of my projections that are greater than 1, basically. So I can probably, yeah, I should just go by condition. That's fine. So all my conditions are better than 1, which is all the buckets we just talked about. So, I mean, I didn't have to go through all of that, but I'll definitely go like, I'll do this, look at all of my lineups that I can build with the golfers that I see from those buckets, build from there. And then when it comes to like the last golfer, I mean, how I usually do this is I'll just look at all my 6K golfers. So I'll put a condition on here and say like less than or equal to 6,900. And I'll put all of my exposure levels that I want here. And then I'm just going to basically copy and paste. So I don't care who my 6K golfer is. And I'll randomize this range as much as possible. And then try to fill in the 5 spots from there with the anchor buckets that you saw and the Marquee tee time pairings. So that's the strategy that I'll be deploying. Obviously, these are golfers that I like quite a bit. The player pool isn't as small as I would like it to be, but obviously we could get there. You know, if we are very stingy with the golfers we saw in each of those buckets, we can easily just go with high exposure levels to all of those guys and have a player pool of like 15 people, maybe even less, 12, and apply as many lineups as we possibly can with those guys. But for me, I'm never the type that likes to go over 25% exposure on a player. I'm usually playing multi-contest GPPs where I would like to create as many lineups as I possibly can to maximize my potential, what's it called? Reach, I think? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the right way. I'm not maximizing my profits. Let's put it that way. I don't care. I want to get the one optimal lineup to hit in a GPP. And I'm totally fine with that one lineup hitting, where I win the jackpot of that tournament, and that can just be spread over all the lineups that I build. I don't need to have every contest won under one lineup. So anyways, that's a long way to go about that. I was hoping this would be a little shorter than that, but it's okay. It's okay. You got to see kind of the strategy that I'm deploying when it comes to the Marquee tee time pairings as well as the anchor buckets. Hopefully that gave you a good insight of the golfers that I like and maybe golfers that you guys can get on and what makes sense to build those lineups for you guys. So anyways, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you in a review video on Sunday. All right, bye.